How are you today, Trent?
Very good.
That's good. That's good. First, let's start off talking about your musical heritage. How did you start playing?
Well, I started playing. My parents started me off in piano lessons at the age of 7, and I started with beginning musical theory and intermediate musical theory and classical music. So I was training, actually, if you ask my piano teacher, I was training to be a classical pianist, a performing classical pianist. But I was also involved in the church as well. So I was around a lot of gospel music. So my church was, Pentecostal. However, our choir directors and musicians were all involved with Dr. Matty Moss Clark and people of that caliber. So I had that heritage there. My father was also an avid lover of R&B and soul, blues music. So he had all of that around, as well as your old Andre Crouch and old Hawkins. So I was just hearing so many different types of music in that stage of my life. So that's how it all got started.
Okay, so was it always a desire as a musician to perform on a larger platform with well-known artists?
I believe that came a little later. It was around high school age, 18, 19, that I actually, felt that this could be a career for me. I was on another path to deal with IT or computers, or I also wanted to possibly be an educator. I didn't know exactly which route I wanted to take at that point, but around that age, I started to really see it as a career, and not just something that I would do on the weekends for church, but that I could actually live and survive off of it.
Okay, so let's talk about making the transition from being a local musician to playing with artists like Donnie McClurkin and Bishop Paul Morton. How did you make that transition?
Well, I definitely know that there were a lot of influences in my life musically that helped me to make that transition. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I was there till about age 28. And my first major influence was Pastor Mark Cooper. A lot of you may know him from Cooper's Temple, their church in Miami. But I started a lot of work with him in the studio and working with him in records. And so he really helped me to kind of grow up in this whole thing. But I also had the opportunity to become a part of the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship in 1996. Of course, Bishop Paul S. Morton is the founder of that. So my church was affiliated with the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship, and that's how I got acclimated with Bishop Morton even back then, and so many different artists that would come through there and through my local church, even those like Pastor Donnie McClurkin. So I had the opportunity to work with Pastor Donnie McClurkin at my local church years before I actually made a move to Atlanta, Georgia, and then through well-known producer Mr. Kevin Bond, through his recommendations and through relationship with him, I was able to start traveling. So that's how that happened.
Okay, so with that, would you say you followed a specific plan, or it just sounds really like it was just mainly like happenstance, like it was in, all in God's plan and perfect timing? What would you say on that?
It wasn't a specific plan. It wasn't a specific plan. One thing I do know is that one good door opens another, or it leads to another good door. So I believe if you do the right thing, in the moment that you're in, people will take notice, and if you're faithful over that moment, over the few things, as the Bible says, God will make you rule over many. So I believe that to be true in my life. So it really wasn't a plan. I did have an aspiration to, be on bigger stages after I felt like I had, kind of maxed out and done the, church thing and musician, MD, minister of music. I was playing with, the local artists and recording with the local artists. I recorded or played with almost everybody I felt in my community, but I did have an aspiration, but I didn't really seek out a particular plan, but it was all in the plan of God, as you said.
Okay, well, let's talk about your role as a producer. How and when did you become a producer? Talk a little bit about that role that you play now.
All right. I actually became a producer. I felt like I kind of got thrown into it, but I accepted the challenge. Actually, as I was graduating high school, I got asked by someone in my local community who wanted to do a church project, a project with their local choir, to produce the project. She wanted me to produce the project, and she had known me as a musician. I knew her as a singer, but I felt like I didn't know the first thing, but I still accepted the challenge. And there were people around me who helped me through the process. So that was actually my first project. I was 18 years old and produced the project. I had been working, of course, with Mark Cooper in the studio, so I watched a lot and, asked a lot of questions. But I started there and just went on from there. As a producer, I've had many great opportunities. So that's how it all started.
I would say now knowing what you know now as being a producer, what would you say the producer's role is when putting an album together? Because I know there are a lot of aspiring musicians who want to become producers. So what would you say a producer's role is when putting an album together?
I believe that the producer's role is definitely to oversee the project. I believe that one should not produce any artist that they don't feel connected to, that they don't feel connected to their vision, that they don't believe in, because it's going to be just really hard to really pull the best out of them and to give them your best. So I believe the producer's role is to oversee the process. Of course, that may change depending on the scenario, whether it's a label artist, independent artist. Sometimes if you're working with an independent artist, you may end up taking on a lot of different other responsibilities, especially if they're friends or family. But to oversee the process, to hire musicians, to hire singers, vocal coordinators, to work in conjunction with to hire and work in conjunction with the recording company, truck, or whatever you're using, studio, but to really make sure that the process is tight and right and smooth. And I have learned, and I'm still learning, that the more people you put in place to handle these different areas to work for you, the easier it becomes as a producer, so you don't tire yourself out.
Okay, so for young musicians that are coming up and are interested in starting on this career path, what would you say advice-wise, what would you tell them on what they need to do to get started?
I think the first thing is to make themselves knowledgeable of the business of music, make themselves knowledgeable of the role of a producer and all of the different terms. You learn things like, being in the studio, you don't want to have too many people in the studio talking to a studio engineer, telling them what to do. You don't want to have, more than two people there really, telling them what to do, and just things like that you can learn and grow from. There's a lot of information out there, internet, of course, books, being in the mix with other producers and other people who have done this work in various genres. I believe that's the best thing that you can do as you are making the transition from just being a musician to producing. And some people think production is only, making tracks and things like that. So production can also involve writing and arranging other people's music. So that also speaks to knowing the business side, because you don't want to go too far and not have your business worked out, and then you have some issues, some things legally that may come up. So I believe just being knowledgeable of what it really takes to be a producer. A lot of people have the talent, they have the gifting, in music, but production is also an oversight process. It's not just administratively, but even musically and creatively. You have to be able to see all aspects of what's happening musically, vocals, band-wise, the technical aspect. You have to be able to see that and put the right people in place.
Okay. All right. Now, I know even with all of the many roles that you have and all of the things that you do you still serve in your local assembly?
Yes, I do serve in my local assembly. I think I've always done that. I haven't had a time when I haven't, but I do serve a local assembly. My church is Changing a Generation Full Gospel Baptist Church. My pastor is Bishop Paul S. Morton, and I've been there for almost a year and a half now. Of course, as I said earlier, I've been connected with Bishop since about 1996. So I serve as the minister of music at Changing a Generation, and so I don't see any change in that anytime soon.
Okay, so what is the role of a minister of music?
Of course, that's subjective. That depends on where you are. But it definitely is another oversight position. Personally, I oversee our musicians, I oversee our choirs, and I oversee our drama ministry. I actually have a co-director of the music ministry, and we share the responsibility. So it's a bit of a unique situation. And my co-director oversees the praise team, praise and worship, dance, mime, the other creative arms of the music ministry, of the worship ministry. But I've had other minister of music roles where I've had oversight of everything, plus the audio technical ministry, bookstore, things like that. So it just depends on what situation you're in, and how much you can employ people to help you out.
Wow, that's awesome. So how do you manage it all? How do you manage your national schedule with your local church schedule?
Ooh, it's hard. It's hard. Of course, family is first, home is first. So we try to balance that out and make sure that family is first, and next, making sure that the church is next on the priority list, of making sure everything is covered. And if I can't be there, that I have somebody in place who can fulfill the roles and make sure everything goes smoothly. And then I deal with road schedule or production schedule. So it depends on how much I have going. I also find it helpful to have management that helps me to keep it all together in terms of the professional aspect, the road schedule and the production schedule. So I'm juggling about 7 to 10 different calendars at once, but just try to keep it going as much as I can.
Wow, that's awesome. So with being a musician, a producer, you're minister of music, I know that a lot of young musicians want to tour. They want to become session musicians. So what advice would you give to them on money management, handling their music business, the music business side as far as money management? What advice would you give to them on or in that area?
Okay. I definitely believe that one who is touring and traveling, if you are making sometimes if you're just gigging and you're doing, what we call one-offs, where just a show here, a show there, it's not it's extra money. It's, what we call bill pay money, light bill payers, car note payers. But if you are doing a full tour and wanting to tour, get it in your mind now that, if you're making, in upwards of $1,000 a week, or more, you definitely want to save as much as you can. Only live off of what you really need to have. Of course, you have a little padding there, to do some things that you may have always wanted to do, or get some gear you wanted to have. But make sure that you're, of course, dealing with the necessities first. And of course, as a traveling musician, it's harder to maintain your regular commitments in terms of bills. You want to have integrity with that. You don't want to be on the road and get stuff cut off and repossessed and everything. So do as much as you can, obviously, to maybe auto pay through your bank or whatever. That's just real easy stuff. But save as much as you can. Have a friend or family member to help you in that process. So you don't want to live above your means and squander everything that you get, because you're definitely going to need that money when the tour is over. Some of these artists, you never know when their stint is going to be over, and they may just call you and say, hey, we're done for 6 months, or I'm pregnant, or I'm working on another record. You just never know. So you want to make sure you save up as much as you can.
Okay. So in the area of gear, what would you say is in your current rig and gear setup right now?
My current gear setup right now is I'm a Mac guy, so I have Mac computers, a desktop system, and a MacBook, a laptop system. I am currently running Pro Tools mainly. Pro Tools from 8 up to 10. I have not made the transition to 11. I'm a guy who I kind of wait on it, wait to get the bugs out. But mainly Pro Tools and Logic as well. I have Reason. I don't use it, too often, but that's just my personal thing. Between Pro Tools and Logic, that gets it all done for me. In terms of, instruments, I'm a vintage guy. So I have a Fender Rhodes actually sitting behind me. I got a Fender Rhodes keyboard, electric piano that was actually pretty much a steal, almost given to me years ago. I have a Wurlitzer electric piano. I have a Hammond A100 organ here in my house, so I can track from home. But in terms of keyboards, I use all types of keyboards. I got, Chord, Yamaha, Alesis, Kurzweil, and, various modules. I use Software Sense as well. So that's my current main setup.
Okay. So what is in the future of Trent Phillips?
In the future, I definitely want to move towards movie scoring, scoring for TV, and that can be in whatever fashion or form. But that's definitely been an aspiration of mine, and I believe it's going to allow me to also tie into my classical roots. I definitely want to get back into really applying my classical things, and whether that is scoring for orchestra, scoring for bands, and just really expanding to different genres of music. I have a love for jazz as well. So big band jazz, standard jazz, contemporary jazz. Lots of people actually have asked me, when I'm going to do my own project and do my own instrumental or whatever. I am a songwriter as well. So that is in the works as well. So we'll be working on that gradually.
Okay, that's great. Be sure to keep us all updated on when you do that. Everybody would love to know. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Maybe so into the lives of up and coming, musicians who, want to tour, who want to become session musicians. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Definitely to have integrity. You got to have integrity. Your word is your bond. Whatever you say you're going to do, make sure you do it. Do it, to the best of your ability. If you can't do it, make sure you let somebody know. Let them know the reason why. Just really have integrity. Your name is a good name is better than riches. So you want to make sure that you always keep a good name. Stay out of foolishness and mess. Keep a good name. Have integrity. Be faithful where you are. Be faithful over the few things that God may have you in right now and have you placed in right now, so that you can be blessed with the bigger things. So you want to make sure, whether that is church, your local scene, whatever you're doing, school, if you're in school, I can't stress enough, finish school. All right. Don't, say you're going to go on the road, and come back to school. A lot of times that doesn't happen. Depends on what kind of discipline you have personally. So, but if you're in school, finish that out, get your degree. And I'm telling you, if you are committed to that path and committed and you're driven, by your music and driven by your passion, all the doors that you want to open will open. But, finish what you start. Make sure you have integrity and be faithful.
Amen to that. Trent, how can we find you on social media?
Social media, Facebook. I'm on Facebook. Of course, Facebook.com/Trent Phillips Music Man. So Trent Phillips Music Man. Music is the regular spelling, MUSIC. And you can also search Trent Keys, and that should pull up. I don't know who else may pull up, but Trent Keys Phillips on Facebook. And my Twitter is Trent Keys. All right. I also have a website, TrentPhillips.com. That's coming soon. It's being worked on as we speak. So we hope to have that up in the next coming few months or so. So keep looking out for our website as well.
All right, Trent, it was indeed a pleasure. And we're looking to hear more great things in the future. And I wish you many blessings on all your music endeavors.
Great. Thanks so much. My pleasure. My pleasure to be with you.
All right. Thank you.